I'm Myke Shrews.
And I'm Tivis.
And you're listening to
the Munster Cast,
episode 17. Alrighty, welcome back everybody to the Munster Cast, the podcast where we watch and discuss the Munsters. Everything that you can think about for the Munsters, we're talking about it. Tivis, how you doing today, man?
Oh, starting off great. Cat's attacking my feet.
Awesome. Well, while Tivis is dealing with his little pussy over there, I mean his cat over there, we will dive into the social stuff. If you want to reach out to us on social media, we are on everything: Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, all at the MunsterCast, along with YouTube at the MunsterCast. You can find us all there. We're starting to use the socials a lot more lately and trying to just grow for you guys there so we can still communicate with you when we're not doing Munster Mondays for the show. So definitely check us out there. And then if you want to reach out to us to let us know your feelings on the Munsters or how it's impacted your life, or if you just want to, shout us out, let us know how we're doing, what you like, what you don't like about our show, or just want to show up and be a guest on the show for an episode or something like that, you can email us at themunstercast@outlook.com. And then all of these links are also in our description on whatever podcast forum you're listening to us on. And we're also on YouTube as well. So all of this is in the description there. So thank you guys. Let's Tivis, I'll leave it up to you, man. What are we doing today? Is your cat done attacking you, I should say?
Yeah, I got her out of there. We were talking for a good, 40 minutes before we finally start recording, and I haven't seen her once. Wouldn't you know it? As soon as we hit record, she's right there. Yeah. I'm a bit tired today, I'll be honest with you. So first up today, we're just going to dive right into it.
Okay.
Mummy Munster, season 1, episode 32, aired April 29th, 1965, written by Joe Connolly, Bob Mosher, Norm Liebman, the trio, directed by Ezra Stone, who we last saw with Don't Bank on Herman.
Dun, dun, dun.
The guests for this one is Philip Ober as Dr. Wilkerson, the museum curator. Pat Harrington Jr. as Thatcher, who we last saw as Sonny Harkness in Pikes Peak.
Okay.
If you remember that one. They have been in so many things. I got to tell you, their IMDb page is huge. With some of the ones that stood out to me, their most recent show that I have seen is Hot in Cleveland with, Betty White, rest in peace. Mm-hmm. King of Queens, Real Monsters. They played Stan Lee in the 1995 series Kirk. William Shakespeare. I'm pretty sure I'm repeating some of these, but from the last time they were on the show. But William Shakespeare from Yo Yogi, and they were also in the Golden Girls.
Nice.
We got Diana Frothingham as the first reporter, which this is her first acting credit. Ralph Smiley as the second reporter. Dennis Cross as policeman. And Dennis will return in a future episode. Okay. And finally, we have Pat McRae as also policeman. And this
Pat McCaffrey?
Yes.
Yeah.
if eagle-eyed, viewers may recognize him as the police officer from the Midnight Ride of Herman Munster, and will return for one final third episode in the future.
Okay, cool. That's it.
Yep.
Awesome. So let's go here. Episode 32, Mummy Munster, as Tivis said, April 29th, 1965. So we're no longer in 64. So I'll have to remember that when we're recalculating for
we've been out of 64 for a while.
Yeah, I know. I keep typing in 64 though when I'm doing all the money exchanges. So Mummy Munster. Herman arranges to meet Marilyn at the Natural History Museum, but he accidentally gets himself locked inside an Egyptian sarcophagus where a sleeping pill he had taken earlier kicks in. Dun, dun, dun.
Those sleeping pills.
Oh, that's one of my notes. All right, so let's start this out with my first and most important thing about this episode, the opening. We have this weird. This was like the weirdest opening back and forth with Herman and Lily that I've seen on this show so far, and it took 32 episodes to do it, so that's pretty good. But it felt weird to me.
I got to ask you a question. It's been a long time since we had a opening that kind of played on the Frankenstein character of Herman. Those early ones. Still, one of my favorite openings is him freaking out with like the candle lit. He's in the dark staring at the bills.
Yeah.
Do you miss those, or are you kind of glad we're getting away from them?
I mean, every so often it's nice if they're like riddled in and it helps the story along, I guess. That, of course, is me speaking as somebody living in 2022 at the moment. Back then, I'm sure they probably loved having the little gags and stuff like that in there because, they had what, like 5 or 6 channels to watch stuff on. So they're like, hey, that's pretty funny. And there wasn't like all this content back then of Frankenstein and all that stuff. So I can understand it for the time for sure. As far as like, if I would like to keep seeing it, I would love to keep seeing it as long as it's not like very pushy and weird. And this scene here was definitely a little weird for me. Just the back and forth. It was off. It seemed like they forgot they needed to have something at the beginning of the episode and went back and recorded this.
I kind of like this bit though. So
it was a nice bit, like what they were saying and stuff, but the way that they were like, the way that they carried themselves in the scene for me, it was like, I'm confused. Because it was like they were waiting for, like, they would say their line and then they would wait. Like they were waiting for like the laugh track or an audience to laugh about what they just said. That was the only thing that weirded me out about it. But again, it might just have been, the way that they were supposed to be acting the scene out. So who knows?
Yeah. I mean, it's very possible.
Because they are the Munsters, so they're not supposed to necessarily be not weird to us. So
since we haven't actually said how this opens, Herman's just getting off the phone, which I will point out he didn't put away. It's still open this entire time.
Yeah.
And Lily comes up to him asking him, who were you just talking to? He's, I was just making an appointment with a new barber. I don't like my old one. He blindfolds himself before he cuts my hair.
Which, should Herman's hair actually grow? Well, I guess, yeah, maybe. Yeah. Okay.
I mean, why not?
I retract my statement.
I mean, he's a golem guy. Who's to say that hair can't grow on him?
But yeah. So then we go from that to basically Lily's wanting Herman. Well, they do the whole back and forth thing with the Frankenstein stuff. She
mentions that she's got to drive Marilyn, which I swear she says to the county fair. But then they're talking about a museum.
I did not hear fair at all.
No, okay, maybe it's just me then. Uh, I was folding laundry at the time. So Herman's like, I'll do it as head of house. You know, his whole thing that we've seen a couple episodes now. It's like, I'm the man, I'll do it.
Yeah, which we really
in other words, you're bored and what's
so we really see that in the next episode that we'll talk about here.
Yeah, we do. It just translates to I'm bored and I need something to do.
Right. And I think is this the one where he says something about how like the parlor's been kind of slow and all that anyways?
Yeah.
Like everyone goes out, but nothing's coming in. Yeah. Okay.
What is it? Yeah, and then excuse me, what the heck today is not going well for me. He breaks their those nice carvings that the old ladies were freaking out about when they were selling the house. He just smashes,
demolishes it. Yeah, this comes right after the fact that he says, because she's like, well, don't goof it up by like going to the museum and stuff, like breaking anything or anything like that. And he's like, what makes you think that me going to the museum would cause any harm? And he smashes his hand.
Yeah, I don't know, Herman. Could it be that they're replacing shit around the house constantly because of you?
How many front doors have we had in 32 episodes, man? Come on.
Yeah.
I wonder if Grandpa just fixes them with magic. Although that never
I don't know
right,
if they would let him after seeing how his magic has turned out over a lot of these. So, then we get the intro, and then we come back to Eddie dragging a giant collar and chain into the house, saying, Spot chased and ate a car again. And I sure as hell hope the people inside the car got out.
Yeah. So this whole scene here, it was a nice one for them to get Eddie into this episode, because you really don't see him in this whole episode after this.
Yeah, I think this is pretty much it.
Yeah.
Like, even in the later ones where they're sitting around the table, Eddie's just not there.
Yeah, he's not there. He's in the cabinet, man. You remember? He's always in the cabinet. They just didn't open the door. And then we go from this scene here to, before we go to the grandpa stuff, we actually go to the museum where they are discussing their like new find and everything, that they just found the new mummy sarcophagus and everything like that. And that they're going to open it up later. And hopefully they'll be able to, I forget the name of the mummy that they supposedly found. It was it's not Imhotep, right? That's from the Mummy.
I actually have it here. Let's see. From the 8th Dynasty of Egypt. He thinks it is Amenhotep the Fourth.
Okay.
Who was later known as Oh my God, this is going to be terrible for me. I have it in my trivia here for known as Akhenaten. This pharaoh was noted for abandoning traditional Egyptian polytheism and unsuccessfully introducing worship centered on the Aten, which is sometimes described as monolithic. His queen was Nefertiti.
Oh, okay.
So a little bit of history. I got some more to either splice in when needed or after the episode, whenever I feel like.
All right. Also,
I can do that. I have the power.
Well, I guess. So then after we get this little like stinger of, basically setting the episode up, because they always do that whenever the Munsters are going to be out of the house.
Yeah.
Excuse me. We get down to the basement where Grandpa's cooking up something. Another damn way that helps Herman sleep. He's doing a sleeping pill.
This has never going wrong before.
Right. I mean, technically, what he creates though in this episode does not go wrong. Like this is like one of his first inventions that we've seen in the show
that works perfectly.
That
it's
works
just
perfectly. Just timing is wrong.
And I don't think we get the context of this at the time. It's later on in the show, but we do eventually find out Herman is a guinea pig for Grandpa with this stuff.
Yeah.
He's not, he doesn't need help sleeping. He's just being told to eat this.
Yeah. So do you want to explain how this sleeping pill works? Because this is actually a pretty cool idea. Like,
yeah.
It's almost like anesthesia, but like just knock them out.
How do I describe this? It is a giant pill.
Mm-hmm.
If there's any of our fellow, people who grew up in the 90s, do you remember those old eggs that used to come with putty inside that you could play with and stretch and stuff? Mm-hmm. It was basically that, maybe a little bit bigger lengthwise, and it had a timer in the center that you would twist to set how long you would want to be asleep and when you would wake up. And he sets this one for 24 hours.
Well, first he sets it for like, so you go to sleep in an hour. It will start to work in an hour.
Yeah. That's what it's this one dial that you can spin, and he can set it to when you want to fall asleep and when you want to wake up just from that one.
Right. Now the question is this a one-shot pill? Or does it just keep doing that after you wake up in 24 hours, then you get knocked out after an hour, and then you wake up?
Going by what they give us, I think it's a one shot because he has to take another one later on.
Right. And this is a pretty big like pill because when Herman holds it, it's probably about inch or two big. I'm a man, so my inches might be different. No, but no, it looks pretty big compared to his face. So, and then he just swallows it.
Well, first he asks Grandpa if he can take it without food, and Grandpa goes, it's fine. He also says that he can't take. The reason he sets it for later is he can't take it because he has to drive Marilyn to the museum, and he hates to drive while asleep.
He's got to pick her up. Because this is after he's already dropped her off.
Oh yeah, he has to go get her, and he hates to drive while asleep. Don't we all? But as he takes this pill, I might add, he like inhales it. He's like holding it, and you hear it hit his stomach.
Yeah. He's like, I guess it's really empty for the stomach. And then after we get that, we fade out to Marilyn walking through the front door, walking in, and she's like, "Oh, what happened to Herman, Uncle Herman?" And Lily's just like, "Well, what do you mean? Like, didn't he pick you up?" And she's like, "No, no one picked me up. Like, I probably got a ride from some guy who wanted to bang me again or something. I don't know."
And then we cut to the museum where
how did Herman, she get home?
She could have took a taxi.
The Munsters don't have that kind of money. No.
We'll wait till next episode. Actually, no, it's this episode.
Unless they still borrowed some of Uncle was it Uncle Chester, right? No.
Oh boy.
Oh shoot. What's his name?
Oh my God, we just did this one. How did I gotta look my notes up now.
From last week, right?
Yeah.
Uncle Gilbert. That's what it is.
Gilbert, that's it. I just opened it.
Yeah. So Uncle Gilbert still might have left them some money, and that's how they have their money.
But yeah, cut to Herman, who is lost in the museum. So he made it there. He just had no idea where the heck he was.
Right.
And then he starts, playing around with his echo, and he gets real excited. Row your boat. He decides that he's going to leave.
Yeah.
And he finds out the door is locked. Well, he's like, and this entire time he's mumbling, so I had to turn up my volume to hear. This is some of the funniest banter I've heard from Herman, and he's just bouncing off himself.
Yeah, he's just talking to himself about it all. I'm just like, wait, what?
he's like, I gotta bust the door down. He goes, he's like, no, wait, hang on. He starts listing off the things he can't destroy. It's like landmarks. He's like, damn. All right. So he's like, I'll go find a phone. And then he sees a T-Rex skeleton, and he's like, we got one of you at home.
Mm.
So like, oh, so hang on, Spot's a dinosaur now? He's looking for a phone booth, and I don't know if you noticed this. He walks right past a telephone on a desk.
Yeah, and then he goes to the first
the mummy.
Yeah. Because I mean, at their house, their phone is in a casket. So of course, the sarcophagus casket, he's gonna put two and two together and think that they're the same thing.
He opens. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, he opens this one up and there's a mummy inside. And that's when I started thinking something that I'll talk about at the end. But so there's
Curse the Mummy type thing where he comes alive.
Sort of.
I thought that's where this one was gonna go.
Yeah. But then he's like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know someone was in here. He closes it back up and walks right next to the bigger sarcophagus that can clearly hold Herman versus that smaller one. So and before we go any further, that is one we haven't seen yet, is the Mummy. Yeah, well, since you're talking about it now, I'll just bring it up. I honestly thought that was a lost opportunity for them, a missed opportunity. Sorry, for this episode, because I really did think that we were finally going to introduce the Mummy in this one, or a mummy of some sorts into this one.
Because we've gone through pretty much all of Universal's monsters except for that one.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, at the time. Well, the Hunchback and stuff like that.
Unless you count the Bat, Igor.
And then you have Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, but you could say that's Grandpa.
Yeah, he actually, if you recall, that's his costume he wanted to be in the very first episode.
Yeah.
But getting back to this episode, he opens up the bigger one. He has trouble with it, but he finally pulls it open, and he's like, I need to find a phone before this pill kicks in. Boy, they didn't just put more lights in these places. And as he's looking for the door, the phone that doesn't exist, the lid slams shut on him. And even though he managed to pull it open, and that requires more of an effort than pushing, he can't get out.
It could have latched on him. We don't know. There was a latch on the side, which a sarcophagus probably wouldn't have had something like a metal latch on it. But it's okay, prop department. We see you.
That's fair. But as he's trying to get out, he falls backwards and is now laying on the floor.
Well, before he falls backwards, because he has to move it forward. He walks the sarcophagus forward a little bit by bouncing it back and forth. That way he can fall backwards. Otherwise, it's just up against the wall. So that was a nice little comedic thing with a reasoning too, to make it so where he is.
Do you think that was actually something he had to do?
No, I bet they, it was probably an empty thing, and they had like something moving it back and forth up above where we can't see. And then that's what it was. Because there's no way that they would have risked him hurting himself in there that way.
Yeah, for no reason.
Yeah, especially with the fall, because there's no reason to put the actor at risk for that stunt when you can easily do it without putting a person in there. Also, that would be a pain in the ass to make sure you're not going to fall sideways or some shit like that when you don't have any control. Right. And if he would have fallen forward, the prop would have been completely destroyed. So yeah. So
Yeah.
I don't believe that he was in there when that was happening, or anybody was even in there, not even a stunt person. So that's just me. I may not know. If we got Butch on, we could ask Butch.
Yeah.
So yeah,
we need to get Butch. I got so many
Butch,
questions.
I mean, we say that, but Butch might not have even been on set anyway, so it wouldn't have mattered.
Yeah, well, he's barely on this episode. It might have been his vacation episode.
He was in school.
Yeah, possibly.
Yeah. So so after that, he falls down. Then we go from the sarcophagus falling just straight to these like
the following morning,
curators and everything like that.
The reporters.
It's not even the following morning, is it?
I believe it's the next morning.
Okay. Oh yeah, that would make sense because the museum was closed. Yeah. So then you have the reporters and the curators and all that stuff from the museum there.
I love how they initially don't even acknowledge that it's on the floor now. They're just around it like, oh, this is so exciting. We have to open it. But and I'm like, I seriously thought they weren't going to talk about it being moved at all.
Yeah. Luckily they did though, which was nice. Yeah. Like I was like, okay, cool. So they're acknowledging the fact that, oh, hey, it moved from here to here. And the reporters are asking the questions and stuff. Now there is one guy in this thing because the curator's so worried about like somebody trying to steal their find or whatnot. There is somebody in this scene. I don't know who it is. They don't give a name or anything, but he comes off very suspicious, man. Like he's like working for another museum almost in that scene. So I just wanted to point that out. But then they eventually pop it open. They have crowbars because that's something a curator would use to open their sarcophagus.
Yeah, I thought the same thing.
But we'll go with it. Because what happens next is even worse. And it's something I didn't even think about right away. I thought about it towards the end of the episode. So they open up the sarcophagus. You know, there's no poof of dust coming out, nothing. There's the body that's in there, of course, is Herman. He's not wrapped in any mummy garments or anything. And he's wearing a suit jacket. This did not throw any red flags to them.
No, they're like making all of these observations like, look at how well preserved it is. Such a testament to their master craft at the time. Because
they were only paying attention really to the face, but they're like, I'm like, he's wearing a suit jacket and slacks, man. Like, ancient Egyptians didn't have that. Unless they're trying to dive into the whole ancient aliens theory. Because he is green.
As they close the sarcophagus, though, I keep wanting to call it a casket.
Yeah.
They mentioned something that is extremely important that a lot of people don't think about when uncovering these tombs and stuff, and that's how the oxygen is drastically different than it used to be back then, and it's more oxidizing and can damage all this stuff. That's why tomb raiding is so detrimental. And when you find a new chamber for and not just in pyramids and stuff, but around the world, it's such a delicate thing to open up, because as soon as you do, like any kind of writing on the walls and stuff starts immediately fading and becoming obscure, and you have to work real fast.
And even for as good of a job as they did to preserve bodies too, for anyone who was mummified, they instantly start to degrade when they hit normal oxygen. It's why that even like with our constitution and stuff like that, they fix these things, they clean these things in a very secure, airtight room. And you're wearing like basically a hazmat suit. So
have you seen our declaration recently?
I have not. No.
We were just in DC in 2019, and Literally the only thing left on it that you can read is like the very top, "We the People" and John Hancock. Everything else is obscure as hell.
Yeah.
Like it's basically going to be a piece of paper here in like another decade or two.
Because it's not the real one, man. Nick Cage already stole that.
Fun, interesting fact is when they made a bunch of copies back in the day, like the original copies, they used a copper press.
Yeah.
And my grandpa actually has one of those original copy of the copper presses. Well, okay. I say has. My dad now has it. It's hanging outside my grandpa's old bedroom.
That's pretty cool, dude.
Yeah. He freaking lied to me and told me it's was a copy of the original Declaration, which was a bunch of bullshit. And I believed him because I was 6. But still, it's cool that it's something rare like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Speaking of rare, this episode, this series, no. So yeah, when I was glad that they at least were acknowledging some realistic aspects to, exhuming the sarcophagus and everything like that. So that was pretty cool. Just don't use crowbars. And when they would have opened this up originally, it was the 60s, so they might not have necessarily known as much at the time. But I still think they knew a lot.
Yeah. I feel like archaeology hasn't
changed a whole lot.
I'm sure technology has made it easier, but their understanding of how to do this stuff properly hasn't, drastically escalated.
They still would have had like airtight rooms and stuff like that to open these up originally. If this was not opened up on site when it was found. So, because they opened it up like they were opening it up on site with crowbars. And it was empty too originally. So I'm curious, did the mummy get out? Is that how we get a mummy in this series later? Possibly.
I mean, it definitely leaves the door open.
Or the sarcophagus. And dad jokes. Or is it, did somebody steal the stuff out of it? Or was it just an empty sarcophagus and they don't, they suck as curators. So, yeah.
I think only one's a curator, the other one's an assistant.
Yeah, I think, that's what it was. But yeah, so they're wowing him and then they close it back up. And that's when they make the remark, well, we need to close this before it ruins it. You've already ruined it. So
how they close it, they slam the lid on the crowbars.
And then they move the crowbars out. And they don't even, it still leaves like a good inch gap too.
Yeah.
So I was just like, it's not even closed, man. So then after that, we finally go back to the Munsters' house. They're eating again because they're
around
always
the table. Yeah.
Around the table.
The American pastime.
This is when they're talking about Herman and the pill and all that stuff.
Yeah, Lily is extremely worried that he's missing.
Yeah.
Grandpa says that he's probably still sleeping because his crystal ball can't find him. Yep. And thank God that is a creepy line that he can't cross. He also bets one of his lives that his pill will wake Herman up at 10 that night, which he has multiple lives. Is that a vampire thing?
You got me, man. That's not a vampire thing that I know
I've
of.
never heard
but
that.
But maybe he has like a hex on him or something, or
maybe he found a genie and
gave himself more lives. So then this is when Eddie runs in with the newspaper and shows him, and this is the fastest freaking newspaper print ever. Like we don't even print our news this fast.
The only thing I can guess is that it's the evening press. They used to do morning and evenings.
Yeah, I guess. But that's really fast, like really fast.
Yeah. But, there's the front cover, front and center is the picture of Herman as the mummy.
Mm-hmm.
And Lily's like,
go on. You do it.
Yeah, she's like, oh, he goofed this up.
Yeah. He goofed it again, she says. He goofed it again. I literally wrote in my notes, Herman always goofs it again and again and again.
Yeah.
So then we go to back to the museum where the guys are talking. They want to keep it. Or no, this is when Lily goes to the museum and the guys are telling, or the one dude tells the curator, hey, there's this lady here. She wants to see about the mummy, whatever. And the guy looks at her and she's like, wow, she's like really weird looking. Yeah. Another one of the whole, they look different type thing. So she's standing next to a gorilla.
Yes. I actually have some things about that gorilla that I'll get into later.
Please tell me, is there a person in that gorilla suit? Because swear to God, I thought
you want me to tell you right now, or you want to wait?
Yes, tell me right now, because I swore there was a person in that suit.
So the gorilla in the museum is a suit, and it was in several episodes of Gilligan's Island. I've seen a few of these.
Okay.
So yes, there is someone in that costume, and you can tell, especially later on in the episode when they're standing next to it, and the person is desperately trying not to move, but not doing a very good job.
Yeah. That's where this scene is at right now, because when they come out to talk to her, she's just stands there. That this whole interaction is a back and forth between the two guys and then Lily, who is standing next to the gorilla. And when you watch this, I was just so mesmerized. Like I had to go back and rewatch to listen to what they were saying, because the gorilla was freaking me out, man. I was like, is there someone in this suit, or is it like just a really good stuff? Like what is going on? And because I swore I saw the eyes move a few times.
Yeah.
And I was just like, wait, I really thought that was going to be another gag too. Like they were going to play into that or something. Like the gorilla was the actual mummy and that was originally in the sarcophagus or something.
Oh, that would have been great. The only reason that they agree to talk to Lily in the first place is because the assistant's like, hey, it could be one of those Hollywood types who could throw a lot of money at them. And the curator's like,
right.
Well, who am I to deny taking their wealth?
Yeah, because they assume because she's dressed differently that she's like a Hollywood actress or some crap like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she's like, I'm here to talk to my husband. And they're like, what? The mummy. It's like, no, you can't talk to him. He's 3,000 years old. She's like, he's not a day over 150. What do you think? I'd marry an old man? She's so angry or upset at them suggesting Herman's way older.
So then they finally are like, well, if we just let her see him, maybe we should just back the fuck up.
Go away.
So they go in, and these two guys now with their bare hands just lift the sarcophagus lid up.
Yeah.
No, nothing. There's also, this is where we also see at the bottom of the foot area, there's actually a chain holding the lid to the actual base of the sarcophagus. And so
I missed that one.
Yeah. I thought that was kind of funny. So then this is where she goes, hey, pussycat, wake up, blah, blah, blah.
They're like, madam, he's not going to wake up. She's like, oh, you're right. He won't wake up or it's not 10 o'clock. Well, I have some shopping to do. Here's $2 for when he wakes up. Tell him to call a cab. He knows where we live. Here's our address. And they're just staring at her like, what the fuck?
You're fucking crazy, woman. That's basically what they say. And then she shuts the lid by herself and just
what is it? After she leaves, they're like, boy, when the museum guests are weirder than the museum exhibits, you know you've been in the business too long.
I think we should retire. Yeah.
So the curator's like, no, she's obviously a plant. We're gonna post a guard here, and for some reason you must stay here all night and stare to his assistant. Yeah. Which seems incredibly harsh. He didn't do anything wrong.
Yeah, he's the assistant though. He's,
Why does he have? You're going to have a guard there, which I might add, we never see.
No, we never see him. I think when he said a guard, I think he was just referring to you're going to stay here. you're
made it sound like it was two people.
Yeah. So then some time goes by and Herman starts to wake up in the sarcophagus. Yeah. And the guy is freaking out because he hears knocking. and he's like, oh, where's that coming from? He can't find it. And then eventually Herman starts to talk.
Yeah, hello. And at this point, the assistant's starting to fall asleep because no one can be expected to just stare at a box all night.
And he wasn't even actually in the same room as the sarcophagus anyway.
Yeah, he was.
Was he?
Yeah, he was sitting at the desk next to the phone.
Okay.
When Herman starts saying hello, he wakes up and grabs the phone and is like, hello?
Yeah. So then Herman does lift the sarcophagus lid up.
Yeah, he has no problem picking the lid up this time.
Well, you could say earlier he was falling asleep, so he was starting to lose his muscles.
Yeah, maybe. Or it could be that it's, as you said, it's been open so many times now it's just loose.
Right. So then he gets up. The guy busts right out the door.
No, not yet. Not yet. He runs to the door, tries to open it. He's like, it's because he locked it after he heard knocking and no one was outside.
Yeah.
He runs back to Herman. He's like, the door's locked. Herman goes, oh, that's rather annoying. He's, yeah, it is. And then he just jumps through the door. And Herman's like, oh, that's very polite of him to open the door for me.
Yeah. So then Herman walks out, and then we get Herman to walk by the gorilla. Yeah. And then this is where the gorilla's like, what? And then he like climbs up the tree. So
there's no explanation for this.
No.
This is supposed to be a stuffed gorilla. The whole reason they went with a suit was this one gag, and there's no reasonable explanation for a dead gorilla to just climb a tree.
Maybe he scared some life into him. And some organs and some brains. And
you know what? That makes it make a lot more sense. Instead of scared to death, it's scared to life.
Yeah.
All right. Now I get the gag.
All right. So then we go back to the Munsters' house where they're eating again.
Yeah, they're having breakfast this time,
how are they all not fat?
No, this isn't breakfast. Never mind.
No, it's some weird. It's like a dinner because he just got home from whatever.
There's another one where I figured out they're having breakfast. I think it might be next episode because Herman's having pancakes. That's the only. They have so much. So much of this show takes place in the kitchen.
Yeah, and they do the fourth wall thing where no one sits at this one spot at the table, even though it would make 100%. That always annoyed me, like watching like Everybody Loves Raymond and stuff.
That's the invisible person spots.
Yeah, I guess. But yeah, I always have been annoyed by sitcoms, and I love sitcoms, but they always do that whole TV gag or the table gag. So then Herman ends up blowing his food on the floor, blah, blah, blah. We go back. Nothing really happens in this scene.
Eddie makes a note that because Herman wasn't there, he had to mess up his homework alone.
Yeah.
I thought that cracked me up. Here's a quote I have actually. So Eddie asks him if he's going to sue the newspaper for slander for calling him a mummy. And Herman goes, no. And this is a quote. I had to go back and re-listen so I could put it all down.
I was going to write this quote down, but I totally forgot to.
He says that we shouldn't be too hasty to retaliate when one treats us ill. In other words, one who fights fire with fire only gets in trouble with Smokey the Bear.
It's a good quote.
Yeah.
Very good quote. So after that, we dive over back to the museum where the curator's noticing all the busted doors and stuff, but the gorilla's back to where the gorilla originally was.
It's just
So-
ask the gorilla. He's like, I'm not crazy, man. I saw this shit go down. The curator looks over at the dude in the monkey suit, trying desperately not to move. What are you talking about? It hasn't moved.
Right.
Because this is the scene where you could really tell that there's someone in the suit. Because before it was kind of off to the side, but now it's like right next to them as they're talking.
Yeah. So this is when for some reason, we're going back to Grandpa's lab.
Well, hold on. The assistant gets demoted for allowing the mummy to be stolen.
Oh, yeah, because they talk about how it was stolen, that the girl stole the mummy, blah, blah, blah. How the hell did she pick up? Anyways.
Well, he is now the custodian of the seashell collection. And then the curator is off to get a search warrant.
Yeah. So, and then we go back to the Munsters' house. We're in Grandpa's lab, and Grandpa's like instantly trying to shove another pill down Herman's throat. Grandpa is Herman's dealer, dude. Like he's pushing all the time for him to take new drugs.
Herman is just his gullible guinea pig is what's going on here. He's like, hey, I have this new thing. Try this. And Herman's like, okay. Yeah. What does it do after he takes it? Oh, don't worry about it.
What was the reasoning, though, for him to take this pill again? I forget. They didn't really give a reason.
There was no reason other than Lily like yells at him in a bit for like, you need to stop giving your stuff to Herman.
Yeah.
Which is why I think this is just Grandpa testing stuff. But Herman does not want, he has a fit. He's like, I don't want any more pills. And Grandpa's like, I'll give you a box of candy. Herman's like, give me the pill.
He takes it and he passes out instantly here.
Yeah. We get another gag of it like landing in his stomach. He's like, oh, that's a iron stomach there.
Yeah.
So here's a trivia fact. When Herman passes out on the table, Grandpa covers him with a Devil's Island hotel blanket.
Yeah.
The island is located in Western Lake Superior. It is one of the 22 Apostle Islands of northern Wisconsin. And when surf on the lake is heavy, the waves thunder and boom in the island's extensive sea caves. The rumbling can be heard from the shoreline, and that's where it gets its name from the indigenous people there because of the sound of evil spirits.
And you can also, because I looked it up too, you can also stay at a hotel there for $57 a night, or up to like $200 and some dollars a night.
And the only people living on the island are Park Service volunteers.
Yep.
So we cut to the curator. He's talking to Lily with the search warrant, the two cops, and she's like, look, it's my husband. He's not dead. I can assure you, you can ask him yourself. And then she pulls open the dungeon door and storms away. The cops just look at it like, oh, this just looks like we're going to die.
Smart cops.
Yeah. So
the curator's
they go down there.
The curator's just like, everybody who does shady stuff is, what did you expect? I was like, what? Wow.
What other kind of people would you expect to steal a mummy?
Right.
So they get down to the dungeon and they lift it up, and there's, her, there it is. They grab him and they're like, well, this has to be a mummy. I've never felt rigor mortis like this other than a stiff.
So then we go.
They ask him if he's going to prosecute, and he's like, just get it back to the museum. We'll talk about prosecution later. Yeah.
So then this is where we get the scene afterwards where Grandpa and Lily have their interaction. She gives the line, can't you experiment on, like, was it squirrels or something that she said?
Rodents, like other bad scientists.
Yeah. Like other scientists. And she's like, oh, what's going to happen? Blah, blah, blah. And he's like, oh, well, the pill is going to wake him up in like 30 minutes. And she's like, well, Herman they better have candy for Herman, because when he wakes up, he's going to be mad.
That's what I got here too. So Lily asks, he's like, well, what do we do now? He goes, I don't know, but I sure hope they have a box of candy for him.
And these people are so worried about, or at least he was originally worried about the sarcophagus being open. Now they're just dragging a supposed mummified body around town in the back of a police wagon.
Yeah, it's sticking with its feet out. They put a what is it?
The overhang tags.
Yeah, the overhang tag on it.
Yep. The flag or whatever for when you have oversized items.
This curator is terrible.
Yeah. They're all horrible. And then so in this car scene, they're in the car with the police, and they're making some jokes. I forget the joke that
it's a mother-in-law joke.
Yeah, it's a mother-in-law joke. And even Herman starts laughing, and they're like, the guy in the back is like, oh, there's only 3 of us, but I swear I heard 4 laughs.
And then, go ahead.
And then Herman sits up and he's like, oh, and they all freak out. They jump out the car as it's moving.
Speaking of mother-in-laws, have you heard this one?
Yeah. It was a pretty funny scene.
We know how much he loves his jokes.
Oh, yeah. Herman loves his comedy. Even if no one else does. So they jump out the car and then
they bail.
And then as they see it's about to crash, that's when they worry about the car. And then Herman just like slides up and gets out, and
it hits a fire hydrant.
Yeah. And then we end the scene. The show just ends right there with Herman
he's
getting
like
out the car.
Taxi.
Yeah.
That's it.
So that's the end of the episode, man. Episode 32 ends just with him like, hey, taxi.
Yeah,
we all know he knows how to get home, right?
Yeah.
So yeah.
Oh. Yeah.
So what did you think about this episode, Tivis?
This was a fun one. It's just straight up silly. Yeah, a lot of it doesn't make sense, but it really doesn't need to. It's just fun.
If for as much as stuff that does, taking into consideration everything else, but for as much as some of the things that they do don't make sense in like a real world scenario, they actually put in a lot of like real facts in there, like, about
the 18th dynasty, the mummy, the pharaoh.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's kind of what really also elevated it for me is I like when they do kind of a little bit of educational stuff. And that's what I love about very early Doctor Who is that it was originally created as a children's educational sci-fi show.
Right.
It got away from that, obviously, but
most do. But yeah, I enjoyed that part where it's like, we're going to just have fun with this episode, but we're also going to toss in some like points here and there that possibly might get people to think. In the 60s, it was probably a little harder for people to research some of the stuff too.
Go to the library and check out some books.
Right. You just go to the library instead of going to Google or your phone.
Yeah.
So, so I really enjoyed this episode. It got me to laugh a lot. And so before we dive into episode 33, before you start your stuff, I wanted to also let people know, because I know me and you watch the DVD set that you can buy. It's like $20, right? $9.
I go off iTunes most of the time, but I do have it. It's up there behind me.
I did want to let people know too that most of these episodes, in case you haven't watched any of them yet, or you want to go watch them, you can watch these on both Peacock and Daily Motion has them. Now, the versions on Daily Motion sometimes are flipped mirrored so that
because they're
them on there. Right. So that's the only difference with the Daily Motion ones. They're either flipped or they're darkened. But then you can also watch them on Peacock. And I don't know if Peacock costs money or not. I
believe they have a
free version,
commercial included free version, but some of their shows are not included in that package.
Okay. Yeah. I just wanted to let people know that don't have the extra to go out and buy the DVD set or anything like that. So, or don't already own the set like we do.
Yeah. I believe they went to Peacock after they left Tubi.
Yeah.
When I discovered them a couple months ago.
Okay. So just wanted to get that out there for everybody. I'm sure there's other ways to watch it too, but I just watch the DVD. I just pull I just pull out the DVD.
I'm an extras fiend. I love extras. So DVDs are like my bread and butter with entertainment.
And I think as we said in like
that's not a correct analogy.
Well, I think as we said too in the first couple episodes, several of the features on the box set too, like we don't get paid for this, just so people know. But
we just really enjoy it.
Several of the features
not a
of
sponsor.
The box set, right? There's no sponsor.
However, Universal, if you would like, please reach out.
But yeah, like the space features on the box set are really cool because there's some extra movies. There's some, the original pilot and stuff like that, which we'll be doing for our finale for season 1. So.
What is it? The family portrait episode is in color on there.
So you get it in color and black and white if you want. So, which we did our discussion on the colored version. So if you haven't checked that episode out, go ahead and do that. Anyways, let's.
I got some other trivia I had for this previous episode. Okay. When Dr. Wilkerson mentions the 18th Dynasty of Egypt, this dynasty is classified as the first dynasty of the New Kingdom of Egypt, the era in which Egypt achieved the peak of its power. It had several of Egypt's most famous pharaohs, including Tutankhamun, or King Tut, as many other people know him. Also was a Batman villain. Hatshepsut, the longest reigning woman pharaoh of an indigenous dynasty, and Akhenaten, the heretic pharaoh, with his great royal wife Nefertiti. The pharaohs of Dynasty 14th ruled for approximately 250 years. A little bit of conversion. Lily gives $2 for the cab fare, and today that's about $17.85.
That's
so
big,
expensive.
Yeah, it's a big difference.
And I already said the bit about the gorilla suit being used on Gilligan's Island a lot. Yeah. So
that's pretty cool. Yeah, I didn't realize that it was a person in that suit in that scene with Lily, because I was just like,
as the eyes kind of gave it away when they were on screen.
Yeah, that's what gave it away to me. I was like, there has to be somebody in there. Otherwise, this is a freaky ass statue. I'm always worried too, because like you always see these videos like on TikTok or even like with Impractical Jokers and stuff like that, TV shows and stuff that do these like pranks to people in public. Every time I go into a store, if I see a mannequin that looks like it could be a person, I'm walking away from it because I'm not about to get jump scared by some dude dressed in a mannequin outfits, let alone a gorilla outfit. Anyways, let's move on to episode 33.
Season 1 aired May 6th, 1965, titled Lily Munster, Girl Model. Teleplay was by Joe Connolly and Bob Mosier. Story by Dick Conway, who we last saw with Herman the Rookie. Directed by Earl Bellamy, who we last saw with All-Star Herman. So a couple of the sports-centric episodes. Guess this one is Roger C. Carmel as Laszlo Brastov, who was in DuckTales, The Transformers, was Harry Mudd in both Star Trek, the original and the animated series.
The Harry Mudd.
Yeah. Or as he was renamed in the animated, Harcourt Fenton Mudd, and was also in Batman. We had Nina Shipman as the beautiful girl, who wrote a book published in 1975 called How to Become an Actor in Television Commercials. A lot of the people, guests, are models that they had on who's very little television career, just so everyone knows. The next person is John Alvin as Mr. Franklin, who had a reoccurring character called Harry Barth in the Beverly Hillbillies. We had Kimberly Beck as the little girl, Sally E. Morris as Coletta. I think that's how you pronounce it. This is first of 2 acting credits. The other being just simply a model. Sandra Techie, who is only credited as Techie, who plays Millicent. This is her first credited of only 2. I believe the other one is uncredited. Susan Wendell as the first model, Tracy Butler as the second model, Lois Roberts as Irving, and Leslie Marie Colburn, uncredited as a girl model. So, yeah.
Awesome. So, before we dive into this, everybody, if you don't know who Harry Mudd is, just Google it for Star Trek. Mudd is like
that was
best.
Your only comments to me after you watch this. Hey, that guy's in Star Trek.
I know who Harry Mudd is. Like, as soon as I saw him, I was like, oh shit.
Did you know he got renamed for the animated?
Yes, I did. Yeah.
Oh, did you? Okay.
I
should have known you would know that.
Yeah. They actually, I forget who replays him now, because they brought the character back.
Oh, well, that's cool.
And it's Harcourt Fenton. No, wait, no, that's the character's name.
Parkour.
Rainn Wilson plays him in Discovery.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So, and he does a really good job with the character as well. So, yeah. Let's move along then, I guess. Where am I at? There it is. Episode 33.
33.
Lily Munster, girl model, as Tivis already said. Feeling useless, Lily searches for a job. She lands a position as a fashion model, causing Herman to become wildly jealous and transform himself into a swinging playboy. Wildly jealous is very nice, as a nicer way to say. He becomes okay.
Yeah, I have thoughts on this episode.
Yeah.
When we're done.
He becomes a misogynist in this episode. Let's just say that.
So we open up with him covered in shavings as he's creating a model ship for to put in a bottle. When Lily comes in asking if he wants to go to the movies, and he's like, "No, I can't. I got my hobby here." And Lily's like, "Don't you have to build that inside the bottle?" And he just takes the bottle. Top half comes off. He's, "Oh, it's easy when you cheat." And not the best moral start to this episode.
No, Herman's morals in this episode go completely off the wall.
Everyone's morals in this episode.
Yeah, that too.
She then goes.
These were the same writers too as the previous several few.
Well, the story. This one is by the guy who did the. Was it the baseball one?
Okay.
Yeah. And directed by the basketball guy. So, yeah. So Lily then goes to ask Grandpa. He's like, "Well, what's playing?" She's like, "To Kill a Werewolf and Vampires of Blood Alley." I prefer escapism to my movies. And he has to help Eddie with his homework anyway.
Yeah.
So she's like, "Well, where's Marilyn at?" And Herman's like, "She went out." So she like sits down. She's just like real sad. "I guess I'll just sit here and deteriorate." And Grandpa's like, "Why not? I've been doing it for years." She's like, "I want to get a job." And the look on Grandpa and Herman's face sound like they're like she's planning to kill someone.
Instantly, though, Herman puts her down. Instantly about that.
Well, we cut to the intro next, and then we go to, okay, this is the one I knew was breakfast because Herman had pancakes. And Lily's reading the job listing to Marilyn, and Herman is just making offhanded comments to Grandpa on the other side of the table.
Oh, he's being a complete dick about
asshole.
it. She can. One job is like you must be able to type so many words per minute. 120 words, I think it was a minute. And he's like, she can't even what was it? Oh, write something without looking in the dictionary. I was like, dude, these are things that I would say to my wife as jokes, not like as being serious.
Wouldn't even chance them as a joke.
And my wife's used to it. But also my wife, she has a really good job. So, and I'm never going to tell my wife not to work unless I'm making billions of dollars and I don't want her to work.
I'll be honest. This was probably the most difficult one for me to separate, our views today to back then. Yeah, I can see that it because things have changed a lot. Like when this set was made, there was a lot more of the nuclear family was like top dog, along with like men. They are the house supporters or the household, the head of the household, I guess, the breadwinners, and that's how it was. But you gotta remember, this is also 65 when this episode came out, and we were finally starting to get away with get away from this dynamic a little bit more in the 60s, and especially in the late 60s, where women were finally getting to go into the workplace more and stuff like that. But you still had all the men that were still in that head dynamic like we still have today. There's lots of people that live in the freaking 90s. And like, it's the dynamic that they get into, and it's hard to get out from. So the way that they play it, like every frustration that she has, I 100% agree with her frustrations in this episode. But they also seem like they would have been real frustrations for women back then who wanted to go out and get jobs. Like I remember watching what was it, Pleasantville. If no one's ever seen Pleasantville, it's a great movie. Tobey Maguire's in it. And Christina Applegate, I think, is the sister. I don't recall. But it's a really good movie. They basically they live in like the 90s, 2000s, and they get sucked into a TV show from the 50s. And they basically transform everyone's life in that. And you see some of these elements come up where the women wants to go into to work and stuff like that. There's Reese Witherspoon on the casting.
Reese Witherspoon, that's who it is. Yeah, that's right. They all look alike to me. I started confusing everybody.
Little preview of our Operation Babel show.
But yeah, so I really enjoyed that movie for touching on the elements of the past like that. This, of course, is in the past, and it's still touching on those specific elements. So
yes,
it does it pretty good. Yeah, they toss in a lot of comedy elements there to appease to probably the men that were watching at the time. They're like, a woman working? What? Like that's, I mean, not to be a dick, but that's how people were, well, not everybody, but a majority, a vast majority. Today, still, we see it. So I completely understand watching this episode today and not putting like, well, that's just ridiculous on it.
Yeah. I'm going to try to hold off on my full thoughts until we get to our, feelings portion of this, but no.
Yeah. I just wanted to like headline it with that, because that way, when people are watching this episode, they understand a little bit more of like, it was happening at that time too for this.
Yeah.
So for sure.
Let's see. Lily then rushes off upstairs with Marilyn to go start getting ready for some of these. Mm-hmm. And Herman is talking about how aggressively against it he is. And Grandpa's like, "I don't worry about it. She's got no experience. No one's going to hire her anyway."
Dude, they're brutal.
Then Herman's like, "Should I put my foot down as head of household and forbid it?" Yeah. Grandpa's like, "Nah." And he's like, "Yeah, you're right. She only laughs at me when I do that anyway."
Yeah. Feel that, Herman.
At this point, I don't know about your version, but the one on iTunes, there was a spot in the film that whenever they went close up on the faces,
it
was noticeable and it was driving me nuts.
I think it was in the cut that they took for transferring it over to digital DVD, all that stuff. There was like a fray in the film somewhere in certain parts.
Which can happen with older stuff.
Oh, yeah.
But I just wish it wasn't as noticeable.
Half the time shows and stuff like that, they weren't made to go into like syndication or anything like that back then. So they didn't take care of a whole lot of stuff.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So then we get like a short montage, and by short, I mean like 2 jobs of Lily applying for stuff.
Well, she goes and she does a couple. She does the typing.
Oh, yeah, okay. There is like 4.
So the typing job, she like has she's typing on a typewriter, and I forget the name of the piece, but it flies off the typewriter, but hovers there, and she just moves it back over, and and the guy's like, oh, well, the position's been filled. I'm like, bro, she's doing the job. Who cares if it looks freaky? Just hire her. She's actually she did a good job. What's that?
It's called a carriage.
Carriage, okay.
Which,
the typewriter,
by the way, does not make sense because that's where the things are that goes down on the paper. So if it goes off away from the paper, you can't type anymore.
Yeah, I know.
Also, the strings were very visible.
Yeah. And then she goes from there to an old folks home to be a nurse. Got an education and scares the shit out of all the elderlies. And then she goes from there to a bus driver because the paper said female bus driver wanted. So interesting.
Which this one she rightly shouldn't get because she promptly puts it in reverse and goes through a fence.
Oh yeah, this one she completely. You should know. But I'm like, she drives the coach all the time.
She clearly has a license.
So, and then we go and there's a fashion model thing that she wants or she circled. And
we meet the designer.
Yeah, Harry Mudd.
Who's each woman who comes in, he's just less and less impressed with, to the point where he even starts crying and bashing his head into the wall.
Yep.
And then Lily comes in. She immediately smacks his assistant in the face, twirls her coat and crashes his stuff off of the table. And he's like, yes, I've found her.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So the reason he picks her is because his new line is goth inspired by vampires, and she fits it perfectly. And she's like, oh, you have no idea. She begins to float around with happiness. Again, you can see the wires.
Yeah.
So
there's a lot of weird, like, because I didn't know she could float or fly. And we have another
she is supposed to be a vampire, so
we have another instance of it later with another character I'll bring up. But yeah, we've never seen her do that. So this is the first time we've seen her use that ability, I'll say, instead of power.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And actually we're about to get to that scene you just mentioned, because Herman is extremely pissed she found a job, especially being a model.
Yeah.
And then Grandpa's like, don't worry about it. The clientele, they're mostly men. And then they begin joking about how, they're just rich and they're philanthropists and they probably hang up with the model frequently. And then Herman's like, hold on. That's my wife. And Grandpa's like, that's my daughter.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they're both like furious again. Oh, I guess this wasn't the scene that this happens in, but oh no, it is, because Marilyn comes in and Herman goes to yell for Lily, and Marilyn's like, oh, she already left. And he's like, oh, I'm so mad I could go through the ceiling. Yeah. And then he does. And
he's just like freaking Peter Pan's it up through the ceiling. I'm like, what? Wait, when did Herman fly? Like,
yeah. I will say that this explains a lot. These two scenes with Eddie floating down from the ceiling a few weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, okay. So he inherited that ability from one or both of them.
Right. but he just floats up. I was like, wait, what?
That is not a Frankenstein ability.
Maybe he has like vampire parts in him too.
Could be. Also, that's not a saying I'm familiar with.
A Frankenstein ability?
No, I'm so angry I could go through the ceiling.
Oh.
I'm taking a stab in the dark here that is an old saying that is no longer used, and they just, did a physical gag for it, but
right.
I'm not familiar with it. Listeners, if it's one you've heard of, let us know.
So after this is when Eddie comes in and talks with Marilyn.
She's like, "Where's everyone at?" And he's like, "Oh, they're in the dungeon plotting how to get mom fired." And she's like, she yells at him like, "You shouldn't be eavesdropping."
Yeah.
Like, that's your takeaway?
Well, not only that, she's like, "You got big ears, hear too much," or some shit. And he's like, like you're jealous or something. Like, yep, basically.
The characterization in this episode.
So they're telling in this episode so far, they've already said, be disrespectful to everybody, basically cheat your way through life, and snoop on people because of Eddie. So if you can hear it, it's okay, I guess, is what they're saying.
So we get a callback to when Herman was a wrestler.
Yeah.
And because they're working on a plan to get her fired, and Herman's like, "Are we gonna burn it down?" Like how you did?
Yeah, I caught that one. I was like, wait, burn what down? First of all, like,
are you gonna kill your wife?
Like, and you think like, and it's interesting too, because I thought they were gonna run the gag of like Herman being afraid of fire because Frankenstein's monster doesn't like fire. So I thought that's what they were gonna get to, but nope, they didn't do that. Because we have yet to see that happen. There's always fire happening around Herman. He just doesn't care.
Yeah. Yeah. He almost swallows it when he's sleeping on the couch a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
Grandpa's like, "No, we're gonna use a disguise and ruin her time so that she wants to quit instead." And this is like the third or fourth time now that we go back to his disguise pills that we've seen from the very first episode.
Mm.
And I'm a really big fan of continuity. So just seeing them continue to go back to this, this is probably my favorite part of the episode, because we see all of his. We got. I paused it so I could write them down. We got Ricardo Cortez, Ricky Rooney, Pat Boone, Mel Torm. I might have spelled that wrong. Dean Martin, Cesar Romero, which was misspelled to be like the Emperor Caesar, and Frank Sinatra. And there's a giant one in the back that just says Texas Playboy. So Grandpa picks up the Pat Boone bottle. He's like, "How'd that get in there?" And chugs.
Yeah.
Is that, I don't understand that reference. Is there like a rivalry between those two actors or something?
Maybe, I don't know. Let's see here. I don't see anything.
I will note that Herman picks up a bottle that wasn't in this group that just says Mr. Clean. Yeah,
and then they make a remark about Mr. Clean's pierced ear too. I didn't know Mr. Clean was that old. First of all, like that caught me off guard. I was like, wait, he's damn. But then he's like, Grandpa, he's like, "Mr. Clean," and Grandpa's like, "Oh, don't let the earring fool you." He's like, basically, that dude gets it all the time when he's not doing commercials. Yeah.
So Grandpa is then like, "How about Frank Sinatra?" And Herman's like, "Yeah, all right." An explosion happens around Herman after he takes the pill, and he's now wearing Frank Sinatra's clothes, but his face is still the same. which I don't think it's supposed to be. And Grandpa's like, you know what? You're not as young as you used to be. You can't pull this off.
Right.
So then he's like, how about Richard Burton, which he pulls out of his pocket. And Herman's like, is that even allowed in this country? What'd you find?
We're going to read all this later. So let's get through this episode.
All right. I'm curious.
We're actually having a very long episode today. So I apologize, everybody.
Yeah.
But hopefully you're enjoying yourselves. But yeah, so this is when they're going through all the different suits and stuff, right? Still.
Yeah. He changes each one changes his clothes, but not anything else. And he's like, excuse me.
For Herman, it doesn't change his face. He's like the one person that takes one of these in this episode whose face doesn't change it. And I mean, why would you? That like Fred's like the perfect, just let him play anything that he wants to play. Come on.
Well, after he takes the Richard Burton pill, he's like, look, I want Lily to be jealous, not into me.
Yeah.
So Grandpa's like, all right, how about just a generic Texas Playboy pill? And Herman's like, why are they so big? He goes, well, it's 1/8 chemical. The rest is baloney. Which I'm like, there's a couple things I could take from this.
Yeah.
Like, because, you know, the other use for baloney is a bunch of bullshit.
Yep. Yeah. That's baloney. I had a principal that would always say that in like elementary school.
So he takes this, and for anyone who watched Fairly Odd Parents, he becomes Doug Dimmadome, basically. Marilyn comes down asking if lunch is ready and begins laughing hysterically. It's so mean.
Also, lunch ready? Why would not for these for the show?
She asked if they want lunch.
Okay, I was gonna say for the show though, we've never seen Herman make food. So I was about to say, wait.
Just the fact that she's like bursts out laughing at him and doesn't stop the entire time.
She gets out. She like runs away. Yeah, and then
that's so mean.
And we get them to figure out like, well, what are we gonna do? Because she has what is it technically? A runway? Is it a runway that she's doing?
Yeah.
Right? Okay.
But he's like, how am I irresistible if Marilyn just laughed at me? Which I'm like, dude, that's your niece.
Right.
And Grandpa's like, well, hang on, we'll put a little insurance into this. And he's like, well, you'll go with a beautiful girl already on your arm. And Herman's like, I don't want to go with a strange girl. And he's like, don't worry, I'll make one for you. And this is where things get super weird.
Super freaking weird. Another reason. And also, I wonder how many of these disguises, like the pills and stuff, Grandpa uses when he goes out doing his serial killer hunting.
Oh, that is a valid concern I didn't think about.
Because this one that he's about to use would be the perfect way to lure your victims. Perfect way. For male victims, anyways.
He whips up a potion and turns himself into a woman.
Yeah. And this time we actually see him transform 100%. It's not like that.
His voice.
Except his voice, yes.
What is it? 80%, Herman says?
Yeah.
And he keeps getting weirdly close to Herman.
Bro, I was like, what is going like I get like your but your
Grandpa is too much of a method actor. Herman's like, everyone needs a father-in-law like you.
It was just like weird, man. Is Grandpa gonna get knocked up with Herman Jr.? Like, what is going on?
So we cut to the fashion show now, which did you notice the voice that was doing the commentary for it?
No.
That's Yvonne.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, she was pulling double duty this episode. So we get all the list. It's a fashion show. The girls come out wearing clothes. The fashion designer's super happy with how Lily looks at it. And the girls are like, oh, there's a rich Texan here, but he's brought his girlfriend. And one of the girls is like, darn, a rich Texan was just what I was looking for. And Lily's, oh, I'm not interested in that. I got the best husband ever.
So,
you poor woman.
A question though. So Grandpa transforms into a female who would almost resemble Marilyn's attractiveness, pretty much.
Which they find her disgusting.
Right. They find her disgusting. So I'm like, why would she be jealous of that then? That was my big takeaway. Where I was like, wait, why would she be jealous of someone that they don't find attractive?
Yeah.
Also, when she comes out in whatever the hell she's wearing to do this, she just looks like she's like a Russian runway model. Like, I was like, what are you wearing?
Yeah. So as they go through this, Grandpa starts lighting up a cigar, and Herman's like, don't break character. What the hell's wrong with you?
Yeah.
And Grandpa's like, oh, yeah, I'm going to ruin your drink now.
And Grandpa gets even weirder here, too.
Oh, my God. This is so weird.
Like,
Lily notices them, and she gets at first she's walking around, and then she's like, wait a second, that's Herman. And she's like, who the fuck is this?
And Grandpa's like on him, and not just like hand on Herman's chest, but like nuzzled up to his face, kisses him on the cheek, bro. I was like, wait, what are we doing here? Like, Grandpa is a psycho. I wonder how many guys Grandpa did this to when Lily was younger to keep guys away from her.
Oh my God. If he goes this far to upset his own daughter, imagine what he does to people who pisses him off.
Yeah.
So as the other girls are out showing off their designs, Herman begins winking at a few of them, and Lily's just staring daggers from the curtain on the side.
Yeah. She then like freaking hits like a post, just barely hits a post.
She comes out for the second time.
That like lands on them.
And she tries to kill him.
I was just like, wait, what are we doing? And this is where
the designer runs out, rushes to help Herman and Grandpa, and Herman's like, get your hands off my grandfather. And he's like, grandfather?
Which wouldn't be his grandfather anyways. It's your father.
No, it's his father-in-law. They just established this last scene.
Well, it might be his future wife now.
Oh boy. And so the fashion show ends in disaster. We cut back to the house. Lily's packing. Like, she is leaving.
Yeah.
And Herman's like, it was your dad, I swear. Yeah, and rightfully so. She doesn't believe.
Yeah. And then Grandpa walks back in, instead of in female form.
Yeah, he's knocking. He's like, see, Grandpa took the potion so that you could see that this happened.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, Grandpa comes in. Someone drank my potion.
I wonder, man. Okay, let's finish the episode right here, because this is how it ends. So
yeah. And Lily's like, that's a lie, you creepy old bastard.
Eddie knocks and he comes in.
Yeah.
And Eddie is now a girl.
Yeah. And he thought it was a pop.
Now this is an actual girl, right?
Yes.
Like, it's not okay. I was like, did they dress Butch up? But I couldn't tell.
No, this is Kimberly Beck.
Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, go ahead. What you were saying. I apologize.
Well, yeah, he says he found what he thought was a pop in the basement. Yeah. It was in a beaker, and you have a kitchen. Why have you not learned not to drink random shit in your basement?
Weren't they also pills, I thought?
No, not the one that turns him into a woman. It was a potion he whipped up real quick. So he's like,
which
well,
again though, second episode where Grandpa's invention actually did what it was supposed to do.
Yeah, it ruined people's lives. So Eddie's like, well, how long am I going to be like this? Grandpa's like, oh, 2 to 3 hours. Enough time to learn how the other side lives.
Yeah.
Which I will note, Butch, I really want you to come on the show, but I'm sorry, your voiceover here was real bad.
I thought it's not the actor's fault. It's the whoever lined it up.
His delivery was very deadpanned and emotion. Like you could tell he wasn't used to doing voiceover work.
Oh yeah. I mean, he was a kid. Come on.
Yeah. I'm not saying it's his fault. I'm saying that it's real bad.
How many things were really doing a lot of voiceover back then too? Like,
well, Yvonne just did it.
That's a narration, basically.
Yeah. So Eddie complains that he has to pitch on the baseball team this afternoon. And I'm like, oh, good. He's still on the team.
Right.
And Grandpa then makes the, 60s sexist joke of, well, you're going to have to pray for rain or learn how to pitch underhand. End credits. We just end there.
We end with a sexist joke.
And this just solidifies my feelings on this episode. This is the first episode I will never watch again.
Here's the thing too about this episode.
Women played during World War II. It literally just happened.
The thing is with this episode, with that delivery of that like joke right at the end, it doesn't make sense towards how Grandpa literally said, you can see how the other half, have to basically go through life and stuff for a little bit. Like, because that is a good thing to say, like, hey, look, you can experience things that you normally wouldn't be able to experience or something because you have this chance to live in their shoes and stuff. But then he finishes it up with, oh, you can throw underhand. I'm like, wait, what? He could still be able to throw how he threw.
I'm just gonna go straight into my thought.
Okay, go ahead.
The personalities are like so flipped on this episode. I don't know. Yeah. I realize, they want to tell the story of, the women at the time who wanted to go out
but this wasn't the right way to do it, I don't think. But I think as far as
they made everyone else worse for no reason.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of complaints about that in modern stuff. I don't agree with most of that. This is the first time I've actually felt like that's a real complaint. Because we've watched
certain people worse to make the other people
we've watched 32 episodes where Herman is the sweetest goofball of a husband. He's a downright asshole.
And haven't we watched another episode where she did go out to get work?
Yeah, she was a palm reader and he was jealous during that episode, but he wasn't a dick about it.
Right.
He was more concerned that she was cheating on him because she didn't want to tell him she got a job.
That's what it was. Yeah.
That's when we met her creepy ass brother.
Yeah. Chester the molester.
No, that's Herman's brother.
Oh yeah. Well, we don't know about him either.
No, he was Charlie. I'm sorry. That was Charlie.
Charlie. Yeah. Chester is the werewolf.
Was it Chester?
Yeah.
I'm going to look that up while you give your thoughts.
All right. So my thoughts on it, like I look at it, I looked at the episode in the lens of the time, but as far as the character development that we've had, go on.
It's Lester.
Oh, Lester the molester. There we go.
Also, no, we had to cut that joke.
No, it was the other word I said.
Oh, all right. That's right. You had to cut yourself. Oh boy.
And so now people are going to wonder what word I said. Dang it.
It doesn't matter. It was not good. It was a bad joke.
Doesn't matter. Wasn't a bad joke.
It was a whole
let's go. Anyways, with this episode, I understood where they were coming from within the time frame, the time that this came out and everything. I think that they were trying to tackle the issue while also having some elements in there for possibly the people that are like, Herman was in this episode. However, as far as we've seen with the 32 episodes, like you said previously, the characters all seemed way different. Like you could have plucked this episode out and told somebody to watch it by themselves without never watching the Munsters, and then you tell them to go back and watch the Munsters, and they'd be like, wait,
they have a completely different idea of who the characters are, other than Grandpa, who is continuously just a murderous dude.
And Grandpa's like whole female thing, like it was weird, man. I don't think when they were shooting this, when they shot this, and I'm not trying to be critical, like super critical of it, but I feel like when they shot this, they forgot it was supposed to be Grandpa.
Like I said, it's so hard for me to separate today's mentality with, back then from this episode.
I can separate it, but as far as like the character development and stuff, that's where I find issue with it. Because, unfortunately it was the time, but we were starting to get out of that. So the way that these guys were taking it was a little extreme and ridiculous. I live in a family where I grew up with all women and they were constantly working and supporting and stuff. So I have no issue with any of that shit. And so, yeah, when I see this, if I think about it in those terms, I'd be pissed off. Like, to today's standards for sure. Or like, just like if my mom was treated that way, I'd be freaking Eddie should have killed his dad.
Oh, wow.
Or disassembled him for a day or two.
Game of Thrones shit going on here.
He could have disassembled him for a day or two, put his head in a jar and been like, Dad, you're staying here until Mom's done working. Leave her alone, okay? It's 1965. Grow up. You're 150 years old. But yeah. So my thoughts on it. It was a decent episode for what they were trying to do, but they really, the character development fucked it up for sure. The character switch up, I should say. And then I love the actor who plays Braslov, or whatever the heck the character's name was in this. Laszlo Brastov, played by Roger Carmel. Yeah. Harry Mudd for my Star Trek people out there. So yeah. So I like seeing him in there, but yeah, as far as the characters go, I can't say it enough. They completely changed them up in that episode for sure. If you guys disagree with me on it, let me know. I'd really love to hear. Did you
enjoy this one? Because this is so different than anything.
Because there was a way for them to have tackled the same issue without changing the characters 100%.
Mm-hmm.
Like even Marilyn laughing at Herman so much was weird.
Yeah, it was different, but with how he was acting, I felt like it was so deserved.
Yeah, I could see that. But yeah, like I would really like to know for the fans out there who have watched these episodes many a times. Like this was my first time watching this episode.
Yeah, same.
I would like to know from everyone out there who might actually really enjoy this episode why you like it, or what you think about the character switch up and stuff like that, or if you've never even thought about it. So
I'm just curious how often this one was replayed on TV, because the fact that neither one of us have seen it, make me think maybe they skipped this one.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm curious about other people's takes on the episode, and I know there's a difference between the 65 and 2022 now for sure. Yeah. But at that time they were still. Have we though?
Yeah, in some areas.
All right.
So I got just two pieces of trivia to close us out of this episode. Both Butch Patrick and Kimberly Beck, the girl who played the his female version, they would both appear in the episode My Master, the Author of I Dream of Jeannie.
Okay.
And at one point in this episode, Herman mentions Georgie. That's a reference to George Jessel, who was known outside of his movies for 3 marriages, multiple affairs, one of which resulted in a daughter.
Okay.
So
Right.
it's if anyone was wondering about that reference, that was like a throwaway comment. That's who he's referring to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So I have one last thing to do. I know we're running a little long.
Yeah. What did you look up?
Yeah, that's where I'm going. We're running a little long, but I want to start doing this. I think there's a couple of them for each one of the Munsters here. So I'll do one today. We'll focus on Herman Munster. I found out this. It's like a bio thing on him real quick. It does Herman, and then it does, of course, the actor who plays him. We're not going to do that because we've heard throughout this show, like,
I did a little bit of spotlights in the beginning,
right, of each of the actors. So this is a spotlight on Herman Munster, kind of like a short, like where he's from and shit like that. All right, so Herman Munster is in the best manhood, 150 years old, and lives in grand style, shoe size 26C, with a height of 2.25 meters. I'm not converting that to feet. He towers above all the other members of the family because of his okay. He towers above all others members of the family. Period. They need to have some stuff here. Because of his steel bolt decorated neck, Herman Munster appears here as a pioneer of the present piercing fashion. His greenish skin and different ears and the beauty bruise in from of wow, they sucked with their punctuation. The different ears and the beauty bruise in from of a blizzard he is hardly to overlook. I don't understand that.
Great.
I'm reading it word for word.
Maybe the author's not native English speaker.
Okay, so I'm going to from now on.
Maybe someone of my, grammar level writing this.
Next episode, I'll go in and read and then rewrite. Possibly. All right, but I'm going to continue reading this. Herman Munster was produced in a German lab by Dr. Frankenstein, whose hobby was to put persons together with a do-it-yourself construction set. Herman left Germany at an early age and was adopted in England by a family called Munster. So he's adopted. Herman distinguishes himself through exceptional capabilities in telling childish jokes. His professional background led him to the undertakers of Gateman, Goodberry, and Graves. Oh, what?
If he was adopted, then perhaps that grandfather comment would make sense, but also wouldn't that make him his father?
His last name is Munster.
Yeah. Oh.
Lily's Munster. Grandpa must not be a Munster then.
He's a count.
Yeah.
I don't know. Okay. I thought maybe this was a Flash situation.
All right. And this is how this came up for the last part of this. He proves his good taste with his preference for Huckleberry Hound and Pat Boone albums. So as we found out in this one, Pat Boone was tossed out. So maybe it's because Grandpa was just like, screw your taste.
Oh, maybe.
So
that's good. Yeah. That's good.
I like that. To learn a little bit more about Herman. Maybe some of the stuff comes up in the seasons, I guess, because this is the first time I've ever heard Gateman, Goodberry, and Graves as his job. We haven't heard what.
Maybe that doesn't come into play until the 80s version.
Maybe we'll get to that. Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it.
I'll read through these next time, guys. I apologize and fix any grammatical errors that there were because, wow, I could not read that properly. The grammar and punctuation count. Please remember.
Why I'm not a professional writer.
We'll change that, Tivis. We'll change that. All right. You got any
Good
last
luck.
words for us today, Tivis?
I just, I'm exhausted physically and mentally from this episode. Not this show, but this last episode. It broke me.
All right. Well, now that we're finished up here, remember everybody, you can email us at themunstercast@outlook.com. And
Please do.
Yeah.
We'd love to hear from you guys. We really do.
Yeah, we really do. I've been catching up on Twitter comments and messages there too. So definitely just hit us up anywhere that you feel comfortable messaging us at. All right, guys, with that said, thank you. And we will catch you next time as we take another stroll down 1313 Mockingbird Lane.
The lesson I want you to learn is it doesn't matter what you look like. You can be tall or short, or fat or thin, or ugly